We are glad to hear more practical stories about life experience with Council, and I'm glad to hear you, Pippa, Bondy, who comes from the United Kingdom, about your experience with Council and in what field you are working.
Thank you. It's an honour to be here and to have this opportunity. So I would like to speak about part of my profession is I'm an Alexander Technik teacher. So I work with a lot of people who are hurting, and I work with people who are often in deep pain, physically and emotionally. And I've been doing this for about 25, 30 years. So in this time, I've been asked often to go to hospice, to mental institutions, to care homes, and do something that can help serve these people. And what I have found, well, I'd like to share one story that really does speak to this work really strongly. I was invited to a children's hospice in outside London, in Britain. And in this children's hospice, it was strong because they had the children that were dying, and some of them were born with genetic diseases. They had the families of these children that were there, often with not a lot of support. They had the carers, the social workers and the nurses, and they had the administrative staff. So all these different sects of people, and it was a charity. You know, it wasn't run by the state, so not a lot of money, and a lot of differing conflicts, and a huge amount of care for these children and the families. But the care was often getting caught up in all of the politics. So what to do? I certainly, personally, didn't have any answers, but I felt if I put this into a council setting, perhaps the mystery in this practice would help bring something else alive. So I asked the handful of people I had from each of these different parts of the organisation, or institution really, if we could all make a circle and sit together. I didn't want to go into too much council jargon, but I wanted to just open up the content and way of this practice. And so I said that if we sit in a circle and we light a candle, and all I'm going to do, we're going to choose something to use as a talking, listening piece while we just ask ourselves to have these intentions of counsel. And I asked that people just listen to what somebody else has to say about their predicament, and if the others could just speak when they hold this piece. And let's see what happens. So I was quite nervous and had no idea. And I asked them that they just speak about the pain and the difficulty they're having right now with the work they're doing and their life with the situation with the hospice. And as soon as that, I asked them to be lean. And I said if people do need to go on, I'm just going to ask them to move on a little bit. So what happened was that as each person started to speak and other people were just listening, the differences and the space that came in that allowing allowed the differences to become softer and more interconnected. People started to hear the traumas that somebody's having in the administrative department alongside the nurses. And then the anger that some of the parents had, they were able to hear from the other side what was going on. So this, creating this space that allowed the voice to be heard, and the voice that's not heard because people are too on the surface with all of the problems. Changes took place. They heard, they cried, and people started to offer help across the circle. You know, not across the circle, but outside of that. Something happened and something changed. And people were so deeply touched, it awakened that place in the heart. where love does live. It awakened empathy. That's what happened. So it did make a change. It made a change in the whole function of that hospice, and people were seen and heard in a way that made a huge difference to that organisation. Does that say it?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.